It's been a long time since I've done one of these. Done one of these live videos. It's nice to be back hanging out with you guys. And I have exciting news before I get to the farm plan bit. We have a video coming out. We have the video you all have been asking me for. It's about, did we get our tulips planted? It's all the footage that we filmed over the late fall and winter while we were figuring out how to plant our peonies, how to get our daffodils, what we're gonna do with our tulips. It ended up snowing, and the snow never disappeared. So we finally edited together the vlog adventure of that, and it's coming out in half an hour. So I'm hoping I can do this video here, and then we can all go watch the vlog together. But the title of this, and what we've kind of been busy doing, because we kind of had like a little bit of a lull where we weren't doing many videos and we haven't been doing many live videos, is that we are dealing with some health problems with Ian's dad. So Ian's dad has gotten a terminal cancer diagnosis. They've told us that he has like a couple months left. So in December, when we got the diagnosis, we quickly gathered ourselves together and all went out as a family to be able to see him, have like a really nice visit with the kids. But so that's that's what we've been doing. We've been kind of dealing with that. But part of dealing with that is the realization of what that's going to mean for the business, right? And this is one of I've been kind of thinking about about how to explain it to you guys. And this is one of the things that's really difficult about entrepreneurship, which is there is no, availability to take time off, right? There is no, oh, I'm going to take a bereavement leave because I'm going to take a medical leave because I have to deal with these things that happen in life that everyone has to deal with at some time. For most small business owners, their businesses need their attention, like so much of their attention, and there's just, if you're not capable of giving it that 100%, it's not like there's necessarily anyone else who will. The business, I talk about our farm as it's a baby. It's like a baby. You need to be thinking about it all the time. You need to be giving it a lot of care and attention. And like a baby, if you don't do that, it'll end up like not being able to survive. It really needs you. And so, as we've been kind of thinking about what is going to be happening over the next year in our personal lives, one of the things that we've realized is that we've created a beast with the farm. We've created a system that is so dependent on not only me, but also Ian to be available for the business to run the way it does. And the other complication with that is that if the business it demands both me and Ian to run properly, the YouTube business, which is the way that we pay our bills at this point, because the farm business hasn't really caught up yet to the point that it is bringing in income to be able to support itself without our inputs of free labor, investments into it. The YouTube is also really dependent on both me and Ian. The one nice thing about the YouTube work is that Ian and I can both do everything. This is one of the goals that we're trying to work towards. Sorry. This is one of the goals that we're trying to work towards on the farm business, is that Ian and I both being trained to the point that, if someone isn't there, the other person can take over. We need to train Ian to be able to harvest. We need to train Ian to be able to, build bouquets and do these jobs that have kind of been Serina jobs. But in the YouTube, we both are fully capable of running that business without the other person. So, that's one of the nice things about the YouTube, is that it can be run by one person. But because the farm is like so overwhelming in the attention that it needs, and the reality is the YouTube is a full-time. The YouTube takes a full-time amount of hours and attention in order to get a full-time wage out of it. So we do need, like, both of us to be able to run both of the businesses. And so, as we're looking ahead into like what our family responsibilities are going to be in this next year, we're realizing that we need to be able to take ourselves away a little bit more from our businesses than we have in the past. And to do that, we need to start working on building systems for that. So the plan for 2023 was 100K or bust. The plan for the farm was that we were going to be hiring an employee, like fairly soon, kind of like, starting to look to hire someone at the end of the month. And then we were going to be doing way more markets. The idea with hiring an employee was that it was going to lighten my labor load in like field work, in arranging, in harvesting, in planting, in crop maintenance, the farm stand, all those types of things that keep me busy, a lot of hours of the day, every day, here on the farm in our busy season, which is, April until October, right? Like the busy season is long, right? So we're gonna hire someone to take some of the gas off the pedal for Ian and I on the farm, to be able to give me more time off the farm to assist Ian more in the YouTube, to then free up our schedules to hopefully, kind of get back to the point that it was going to be like, okay, it's like 40 hours a week for both of us. Like something that's a lot more sustainable in the long term, because the amount of work that we've been doing, in building the farm while we've at the same time been building the YouTube, it's been too many hours to be sustainable forever. So the goal was always to not be working so hard always, to kind of get into a rhythm, that's more like, oh, the farm would take 60 hours a week, the YouTube would take 40 hours a week, and just kind of settle into, something. I don't know. I know, like, I'm like, what am I trying to say here? What I'm trying to say is that can't happen anytime soon with how we were planning, right? The goal with the farm for this year was growth. The goal was to keep growing bigger. As I said, we were going to bring in this employee, which was going to lighten my farm load, which then would make it so I could lighten Ian's video production load, so that Ian could then take on a heavier farm load of doing more markets. One of the realities. Oh, thanks so much, Black Dog. You're always so generous. And it's always nice to see you on the videos. You've been around for a bunch of years. Like I because I'm trying to say the things that I need to say, and I cannot talk and read the chats at the same time. But I do see you guys chatting in there, and I do recognize all of you who the names that come up again and again. As the years go by, it's crazy. As we're into a new year, it's like, oh my god, it's been another year of YouTube. Yeah, so the plan for this year wasn't that we're going to be doing less work. The plan was that I was going to be doing more video production to help Ian, because it can be really overwhelming to do the same thing all day, every day. It's nice to kind of do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, right? So I was going to take some of the video production labor off of Ian so that he could then do more work in the farm. But we weren't planning for any sort of system that would make it so that the farm could handle any of us being gone for like a week. And what we really need to do, and this year is kind of like dealing with, a death in the family, is kind of like the wake up call of, this needs to be done, right? This is kind of like, hey, you should have done this at the beginning. But we need to make it so that there is space in the businesses for one of us to take time off for when it's needed. We should have learned that when I was, having time, like when I was feeling sick and needing to take time off the farm. It's one of those lessons that should be in my 10 lessons learned, and then I should like watch it every year and be like, oh yeah, remember to do that. But so this is the year. So instead of growing the farm for income, like for more sales, instead of looking to grow the sales numbers this year, because this is one of the hard things about being a small business. There's production, and then there's like sales. And you can grow your production, but if you don't grow your sales to complement the production, you don't make more money, right? Like, so if you grow your production up to here, but your sales still stay the same, then it doesn't work, right? You need to grow your sales, but you can't grow your sales until you grow your production, right? And so you kind of need to do these steps, right? You need to slowly work one up to then work up the other, right? And so we're at the point now where it feels like the production in 2022 for the flowers and the sales paired really nicely. But the only way we're going to be able to increase the sales is if we find more time for ourselves, right? And so having that employee was going to be our way of finding more time to then take that next step up to make the sales increase just a little bit. But doing that just makes the entire system more complicated. There's more risk because you have to pay the employee even if you don't have the sales. You need to be there managing these systems. And what we need to do instead is to make it so the farm is more functional with only one person available, right? Like Ian's going to be going away for periods of time this year. Like that's just the reality. We don't know when he's going to be going away. We know he's not necessarily going to be going away for like a month at a time, but he's going to be gone for these windows that might be at really important points in time. So we can't be dependent on having two people for everything to keep running. And the same is the reality, like in the household, right? Like, it isn't just the two businesses. Oh, sorry guys. I did the live video early, so that was it telling me. Oh, thank you so much, Sweeney's Creek Farm. We got some Australian friends. Thanks. So thank you. Kind words and everything. Yeah. So what we need to do this year, rather than looking at growth, is we need to take a step back and we need to think, what is the way that we can make our farm and our business more resilient to complications in the future. What can we do to, right? Because what I was saying, we have our sales and we have our production, right? So if we're currently sitting at a level that's looking pretty good, right? And like for the sales, because we put out the videos talking about our income numbers for the last year, and they were like, I love making these videos. They're really important to me because they make me reassess. They make me take a hard look at the numbers from the year, which then leads to me usually making modifications for my plans. And one of the things that was really surprising was how little we sold at the farmers market. I think the total sales number from the farmers market, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it was like $21,000, and I think it was like almost exactly the same as the roadside stand. And the farmers market's once a week, right? So Fridays are a big, hard, busy day for me preparing for the market, but it's just one day. And then it's like I get to take rest on the weekend to recover from working hard. But the roadside stand and the farmers market did really comparable sales, and there is space for growth in the farmers market, but most of the space that we imagine for growth in the farmers market is in doing more farmers markets. We were doing $1,000 farmers markets, which is like incredible. That's the number that we've been aiming towards from the beginning of the business. And there is still growth. There is still space in there. I think that 2 years from now we could easily be doing $1,500 farmers markets, just as more people are familiar with us as a name, as people are like, oh, I'm gonna go look for Red Roof Family Farm. I know they're always at the farmers market. So as we're always in the same general area, but if we bump around a little bit, people will start looking for us. We'll start getting those regular customers as the years go by. And I could see, as we're able to more efficiently make bouquets to bring down to the farmers market, we'll be able to then have more product, which will increase our sales. So I can see the farmers market growing a little bit, but not in the same way that I see the roadside stand growing for us. The roadside stand doing like over $20,000 is just incredible. That's an amazing number. Because the thing about the roadside stand is it's one of those things that I just like picked away at a little bit every day. It was like every day, like I had a system where it's like, oh, I go and I go and I spend an hour and a half and I harvest a couple buckets of flowers and I throw them in the cooler, right? And then I'm off and I gotta go make dinner and I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and that's like, oh, I should go put those flowers that I picked together into bouquets. And, I spend an hour and I make a bunch of bouquets. And then I'm like, oh, it's night. I'm going to bed. I better go shut the roadside stand for the night. And I'm like, oh, because we tended to load the roadside stand at night, because we're not morning people. That's why I can stay up till 4 a.m. But we'd load the roadside stand so at night, so that if people wanted to come early in the morning, there'd be flowers available, and nights get cool here where we are. So the flowers would be happy and fresh and getting well hydrated overnight in the roadside stand, so that they'd be at their prime for anyone who wanted to come early in the morning, and then as the day continued on. So the roadside stand was like a really manageable workflow for us. And then the one thing that we really need to improve at, and when I say we, I mean me. The thing that I need to improve at is finding a system where I can get a number of hours where I focus on just the farm. One of my biggest lessons that I learned having the employee in 2021 was how much I'm constantly getting pulled away from any specific job that I'm doing. I'm managing the business. I'm having to check emails. You know, I do a lot of the management on YouTube as well as the farm, right? So, you know, I'm kind of like constantly being interrupted throughout the day. You know, the kids are, you know, even though Ian usually takes the lead on the kids when I'm out working on the farm, even so, you know, I'm being interrupted by them. Ian's coming down asking questions. You know, I'm being constant, like I'm a little bit of attention here and then over here, and then I'm putting out this fire and this. And because of that, it's really hard to efficiently get anything done. There's these jobs that, you know, they need 2 hours. They need 2 hours of attention to get done. And because I'm doing a million things in a day, it ends up taking me the entire day to do it. And those 5 minutes of traveling from job to job eat up a lot of the day. So one of the things that I need to do is I need to create schedules. I need to create like office hours, basically, right? I need to be like, I'm only available, I'm not available in this window. This is my window for giving full uninterrupted time to the farm. And then by doing that, I can create these more efficient systems. Like I could be like, this is the window every day where I harvest flowers for 2 hours. I get them into my cooler. We have a cooler, you know, like I can harvest flowers ahead of time. The flowers don't need to be harvested, you know, the day before I'm selling them. A ton of the flowers that I have like a 2-week vase life. I've chosen them specifically so that they have a really great vase life for my customers. And when I take these flowers and I put them into the cooler, it's not like I'm losing out on vase life. A ton of these flowers, when you put them into the cooler, they're literally in stasis. You're not negatively affecting the flowers. A lot of the flowers are positively affecting the flowers by putting them in the cooler, by properly hydrating them. Oh, thank you so much. Erica is growing. Love your channel. Thank you. That's very generous. Yeah, so you know, I need to get these systems in place so that the farm runs more efficiently and if the farm runs more efficiently, then the farm doesn't take as many hours to get the same level of production, which is the level of production that we need for a current level of sales. So the plan for this year, it always takes me forever to get to the point because I'm like, the details matter. The details matter. The plan for this year is rethinking the entire farm for how to make it run with only one person, right? So we know the roadside stand is a one person, right? Like I could manage the farm and stock the roadside stand on my own, right? That's simple enough. I could manage the farm, stock the roadside stand, and run the YouTube, and take care of the kids, right? Like maybe the videos would be a little bit less fancy, because Ian sprinkles his magic fairy dust on the videos. He makes excellent videos, but like I'd have to be like, okay, let's make like only a little bit of fairy dust in the videos because the fairy dust is very time consuming. But yes, so I could do that on my own, but that means that the farm needs to be set up in a specific way, right? And so we planted, as you will see here in 6 minutes, we have a vlog releasing on the channel. That is planting the peonies and planting the daffodils and planting the tulips. So everyone who's here hanging out, like in 6 minutes, you have my permission to leave and go check out the better, higher quality video. But yes, in 6 minutes, you will see me planting 300 peonies. And the one thing about the peonies is we're sinking a lot of labor into ease of management in the future, right? So the 300 peonies that we planted in December are not really going to be harvested for a few years. But the amount of work that it's going to take, because we planted them in landscaping fabric to keep it so that weeds, right? Like we will have to do light weeding on it every year, but it's basically going to be fairly weed free. We haven't done it yet, but we're going to be setting up automatic irrigation for it. We've already put in all this work to make it so that our automatic irrigation is actually controlled by a computer. So, I don't need, once it's set up, it's no longer a job to water the farm. Whereas, it's been a job that has taken like 8 hours, 10 hours a week in all the years past. So we're going to be buying ourselves like the best part-time employee ever with our irrigation computer. Right? So we're gonna have these peonies that are gonna need a little bit of maintenance, kind of, we could say an hour a week, kind of going forward, which in a few years will be something that we could harvest and get a good dollar on. And peonies are, I'm nervous about tying up too much of our land into flowers permanently, because I don't necessarily know that we are going to want to be a flower farm for the next 50 years, and I want to farm for the next 50 years. So I am nervous about tying up too much of the land into peonies. But the thing that I've come to realize is that if we can't farm because one of us, needs to be away, it doesn't matter if the farm is set up in a way that's great for me and Ian both, they're working hard, and it's versatile and it's changeable in that way. If one of us isn't there, then it kind of doesn't matter how great the system runs with the both of us. So maybe I need to be less it is a risk to tie my land into peonies, because that's a kind of more of a permanent structure on the farm. But it isn't not a risk to not do it. I don't know if that makes sense or if that's too many too many negatives, like quadruple negative. So we need to do more things like the peonies is basically our takeaway. So our plan is more peonies. Our plan is to think like, what else can we put in that are like the peonies that will only need a little bit of maintenance, something that we could do en masse, maybe something that would be desirable for florists, so that we can work on breaking into like a more of a wholesale type situation, because the reality is, we need 2 adults with the way our household is in order for us to be able to do the farmer's market, because doing the farmer's market involves getting up, at 4 a.m. and going and doing a 12-hour day. And that's just not something that makes sense to drag our young children to. I know that lots of people do it. It's not something that we want to do. That's not like what we want our children's weekends to be. We want our children to be able to, meet up with their friends on the weekends. They're getting to that age where they need a little bit more autonomy. They can't just be, oh, we're gonna throw them in a playpen in the back of the farm stall, and we brought their books and we brought their things, and we just get through the day. We want our kids to always enjoy living on a farm, in the hope that one day they'll want it to be their farm. So, without the two, if Ian's going to need to be away, that means we're going to need to be doing less farmers markets this year instead of more, like what we'd hoped. But one thing that I definitely could do while Ian is away is I could be selling wholesale to florists, right? I could turn the farm into a Monday to Friday job of, like it takes, I go out and I spend 4 hours maintaining and harvesting every single day. And then, I spend 2 hours driving around to florists to sell wholesale. Okay, so I know that I said this at the beginning of the video, and then because it's live, people are always jumping on. So what I'm talking about here is Ian's dad has terminal cancer, and so because of that, this year we are going to have to be planning for Ian spending periods of time like away from the farm, dealing with his family responsibilities. And like there's probably going to be like windows even when we both have to be away potentially this year. And the reason why I'm talking about like how can we manage it as one person, and why it's so important is because like we're thinking about like what's our year going to be like, and the reality is we don't know what our year is going to be like. And I think that acknowledging that we don't know what our year is going to be like is probably an important reality for every year. Right? Like there's always going to be these things that happen. You never know when you are going to have these responsibilities that are going to be taking you away from these things that need your attention. And so you like building in resilience, building in the ability to, step away from the farm, to step away, from it for, a week at a time, it's really important. So it's like I've been spent. I was like, oh, this is the year. I've been going around being like, this is the year, 100K or bust. I'm like, we're gonna do it. Like we always said, like 100K. We're like year 5 was gonna be 100K. We're like right on track for like doing this thing that we said we were gonna do from the beginning of the business. I've been really excited because it was looking like we were going to achieve these goals that we've been working so hard towards for so many years, but now we're not. Now the goal for the year is to do 70K in gross sales. The goal is to grow the roadside stand a little bit, hopefully be able to maintain the farmers market numbers, because we're hoping that we will have better sales at the markets that we go to. So then the markets that we miss, it'll kind of be like a wash on the numbers. And then what we're really hoping is that we can start building systems on the farm for being able to produce and harvest in a wholesale way that is appealing to florists, so that we can develop wholesale relationships with local florists that will continue into future years, because we see a lot of sustainability in selling to florists, right? Like, because and this is kind of like what we're saying, right? Like with the farmers market, you have to be there on Saturday. You gotta be able to get everything ready on Friday, and you gotta be there at Saturday at a specific time. But there's a little bit more flexibility with selling wholesale. Like if I had florists that I was selling to, and I was like, hey guys, I need to be out of town. Like I'm leaving town on Thursday. Thursday is usually my bucket run delivery day. Will you be available to receive flowers on Wednesday instead? And like most businesses have that kind of flexibility, which is huge in the workflow in comparison to how rigid the business is for selling at the farmers market. So we don't know what we're doing yet. We know we're not hiring an employee is kind of the biggest, okay, we can't hire an employee because what are we going to do hiring an employee if we're not going to be there to sell at the farmers markets? Let's not hire an employee because that is not the way that we're working for this year. We know we want to try to simplify things as much as possible. Right. So we're, we're going, three, like we're measuring out our fields. Like literally we were out there the other day and we're going, hey, like we put 300 peonies in this space. Maybe we should be ordering another 600. Maybe we should be ordering another 900. Maybe in the summer, we should be when we do have these extra hours, when we're not being pulled away, when we have the time when we're at home, maybe we need to be looking at laying down our landscape fabric in order to be ready come fall to plant out, an even bigger number of peonies. What are other things that will thrive and be simple for us in the way that peonies are? I've been kind of like, maybe we need to put in a field of baptisia. I'm like, baptisia would be hugely appealing to florists in the fact that it would be like a greenery and a filler that I'd be able to offer for this like huge harvest window. The baptisia it's desirable when it's blooming. It's desirable when as a greenery. It's desirable when it has just seed pods on it. It's something that I could use in market bouquets, but I could also be selling wholesale if I was able to have a large enough volume. The plan was never to have a large enough volume for that because it's talking about tying up 1,000, 2,000, 4,000 square feet into just baptisia. And with our farm only being kind of like an acre of cultivated space, that's what is it, like 32,000 square feet is an acre. So it's like, oh, do I really want to turn, like a 16th of the farm into baptisia? That's, it feels like a risk. But the labor to put it in, the labor to maintain it, it's in there, right? Like maybe now we are talking about wanting to do some shrubs, because I need to spend this year being honest with myself and assessing how many beds can I maintain on my own, right? I think we currently have 100 beds of farm, and and I was failing at properly maintaining it last year. And fair enough, right? Like I needed new systems. I was learning a lot by doing just the flowers. So just because I failed at personally maintaining 100 beds doesn't mean that a person can't maintain 100 beds. But I need to take this year and I need to do there's a word for it, but I can't think of it. But I need to do the math and figure out how fast am I at doing the things that I can do. And when I try to make things as efficient as possible, I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means using more landscape fabric or less landscape fabric, or like what kind of systems we can put in place to maybe buying more plugs. That's one of these things that we're experimenting this year. So we've been talking about all these things that we're going to do in 2023. And we had a plan. We were going to go, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to hire an employee, we're going to do all these extra markets. We were building a plan for that. And that's no longer the plan. That's the big news. We're not doing that anymore. Instead, we're just like narrowing in yet again and making things more efficient yet again. Yeah. Okay, so we have a video that's out. The reason why I did this live video a little bit earlier than I normally do is that I'm very excited about this video that I made. So I wanted to get it out to you guys. I was able to put it out today, but I also wanted to do the live video because I wanted to give this update, and it's been like weeks since we've done a live video. So, but it released like 9 minutes ago. So all of you guys here, you should go watch the video. I'll stay for a little bit of time. We can do like questions. But I want you guys to know about the video, because the videos, the edited videos are the better videos. And it's all about planting the peonies, the daffodils, and the tulips. Because I know that, you know, that's going to be the first question, right? You guys are going to be like, did you get it planted? And we did, and you can go see it. Because the video ended up being like almost 2 months worth of footage. It was really funny to kind of go through it and be like, oh my god, we worked on it for so long. And the video is really funny because like it's in real time. Us like we were encountering like real weather problems. We thought we had like a ton of time to get them in, and then all of a sudden we got hit with this early winter, and we didn't know what we were going to do. And so it was fun for me to go back through the footage and remember. It was like, okay, like at first we were going to do this, and then that didn't, and it failed, and we couldn't do that. And then we were like, it's fine, the weather will get better. And then the weather got worse, and it was like, oh my god, what are we going to do? And we kept having to revise our plan over and over and over again, because it was just like, we were just getting like no breaks. We were getting zero. Karma was after us. But we got it all in. So I found the video very entertaining as I was editing it. I was like, oh my god, we're so ridiculous. This is so ridiculous. I'm like, don't be like us. Okay, so we'll do questions. I see a question here. I paused the chat to be able to see this question. But if you guys have questions, put them down in the chat. I'm going to start like from now looking at what the chat is saying. Okay, so why not get ready Thursday for the market instead of the stress on Friday? They're still fresh in the bucket. So the reality of what we do for selling on Saturday, we do start on Thursday. We actually start on Wednesday. Some of the stuff I pick on Wednesday, but the majority of the flowers I pick on Thursday. Usually spend the entire day Thursday harvesting. So the system is like all of Thursday I harvest, all of Friday I make bouquets, and then Saturday they go down to the farmer's market to sell. My goal for going into this year, because as I said, I have this cooler. The cooler makes it, I can pick flowers. If I pick them at the right time, I can put the flowers into the cooler and they just hold, right? And they're not losing out on vase life for the customers when I have them in the cooler. So I do have this really good window of being able to, kind of harvest things like 3 or 4 days before I arrange it to then sell it. And it still has the exact same vase life. So I need to get systems where I'm harvesting Monday, I'm harvesting Tuesday, I'm harvesting Wednesday, I'm harvesting Thursday, and then on Friday, I go and I take out what I need to make the bouquets out of the cooler, and I make bouquets, right? I need to kind of streamline the system, but as I said earlier, which I'm sure people missed, the problem that I have is I have so many things that I need to do that it's really difficult to find these windows of time of concentration to efficiently get jobs done. So I need to create systems for myself where I'm not running around like a chicken with my head cut off, constantly putting out fires. I need to be like, this is when I do this. It's on the schedule. I ignore everything else until this is done, and then I move on to the next job. Like, this is the window when I answer emails, and no, I'm not available to answer emails all the time throughout the day. This is when I do it, and this is when I harvest the flowers, and this is when I do bouquets. And, I need to make a schedule for myself, and I need to force myself to follow that schedule instead of feeling like an urgent task is so urgent that it needs to be dealt with immediately. I need to recognize that an urgent task can still be dealt with in its appropriate scheduled window. So that's the plan. What is the widest landscape fabric you would use? That is a great question, because this is something that I've learned over the last 2 years, because we started to use a variety of landscape fabrics. And this is one of those things that I think one of the problems with our videos is I don't want to make videos that are longer than a half an hour. And because I don't want to make videos that are much longer than a half an hour, on the editing room floor ends up being a lot of the like specific, detailed flower farming information that I want to share with all of you guys, but that's like really boring. And we're like, no, we got to we're not gonna like take out harvesting these beautiful flowers just so I can like ramble on for 5 minutes about landscape fabric. There's no space for it in this video. We'll just have to do it in a different video. And then one of the things I've been thinking about for the YouTube is, right, because we kind of use these live videos as an opportunity to deep dive into very specific and very boring topics, like what width of landscape fabric do you prefer, Serina? But I know that a lot of you guys want that information in a more appealing format than these live videos. So I was thinking maybe one of the things that we're going to try to do new with the YouTube channel this year is, rather than having a weekly kind of market vlog, maybe what we're going to do, because looking back over what we made on YouTube had us looking back over some of our favorite videos of the year. And I'm going to answer the landscape fabric. I'm almost there. Looking back over it, we realized that like one of our favorite videos of the year was the video that involved having like a ton of markets in it, where we started the video at a market. And then it was like, it kind of spanned like 10 days instead of, most of our vlogs are kind of like Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Sometimes they go into the Sunday where we'll be doing stuff on the roadside stand, or sometimes they start on like the Wednesday, Thursday if we're doing a job that we want to include. But maybe what we need to do, right, because this is something we haven't really showed you guys, and I know a lot of you are interested, maybe we need to do a weekly vlog that is more space and attention to what's actually happening on the farm, right? Because the reality is that harvesting and arranging the flowers is just a small part of what it means to be a flower farm, right? There's all these things like putting down your landscape fabric and deciding how you're going to manage it and what you're going to do with it and how you're going to burn holes in it, and all these types of things that are equally as important to being a flower farm. So maybe we need to do a weekly video where we can take some time to kind of concentrate a little bit more on these other jobs to show you guys more reality of the farm, more tasks, like more, like, because we could do a video every week that's they'd all be completely different, but still, I'd find them interesting. I'm obviously biased, but and then we would be able to take 2 markets, right, 2 weekends, and turn that into a single vlog, right? So we could be able to still show all the markets, but have a market vlog on the channel every 2 weeks, and then have every week have these on the farm type things, and we'd still be able to show arranging and everything, because we'd still be having the roadside stand every day. Okay, landscape fabric. The landscape fabric, so the problem we bought some 12-foot wide landscape fabric. And I bought it because I saw other farmers using like 12 or 16-foot wide landscape fabric, and they were talking about it being like quick and efficient for putting down, right, because you don't have to manage it. And they were in higher wind areas. We have really low wind, and so for them there was advantages to the fact that it only, like, you had less edges, right, when you have it 16 feet wide instead of 4 feet wide, 4 pieces of 4 feet wide, where you have edges every 4 feet that the wind could get under and try to pick it up. You only have less edges. I'm assuming that's obvious. So they didn't have as many struggles for how to staple it down. So I bought this 12-foot, all excited, being like, yay, this is going to be great. And what ended up happening is that Because so landscape fabric, it's like woven, the landscape fabric, it's woven plastic, but then the seams on the side are pressed with heat to melt the plastic together, to hold all the woven pieces together so it doesn't fall apart. But when they do that, right, it like go throw a plastic bag onto a fire, right? It like shrinks up and shrivels and gets all weird. And so because of that, it's when you lay out the landscape fabric, the seams on the side is like is like it's tighter than the weave. So when we tried to lay it out and have it smooth and level and flat and nice and perfect the way we put down our landscape fabric, so that we can then burn holes and so we can plant things, and so weeds don't just grow up underneath the landscape fabric, light is coming in through the holes. It was a pain. It was a huge pain to deal with. We couldn't tension it any tighter because it was so tight on the pressed seams, that it was all baggy in the middle. And I hated it, and I was mad, and it made me like super grumpy. And I'm sure Ian Ian had a bad day having to deal with me that day when we tried to staple out the landscape fabric. So after that, I was like, no, we're never doing 12 feet again. We did do, so our beds are, what are they? They're 3 feet, right? They're 30 inches. No, they're 4 feet. 30 inches, like super brain fart day. Don't know how wide my beds are. They're 4 feet. They're 30 inches and then 18-inch paths. So they 4 feet is how big the bed is, but we don't buy 4 feet of landscape fabric. We actually buy 5-foot landscape fabric, because if we have it like seam to seam, you actually have a crack of dirt and the weeds grow up. So we buy 5-foot wide landscape fabric so that we can overlap in the paths, the beds, so that we have really good weed protection in the beds. And then the other nice thing about that is if we need, because we don't just leave the landscape fabric down, we're lifting it, to then change out, like, oh, this bed, we want to lift it, we want to till, we want to clean up, we want to like rip everything out. We find it a lot easier to remove the landscape fabric, work with the soil and work with the ground, and then lay the landscape fabric back down. The labor of actually lifting the landscape fabric is pretty minimal. So we do lift our landscape fabric a lot. And so being able to do that bed by bed rather than having to wait for, oh, all 3 of these beds are done, and so we're going to take it out at the same time, is important for our system. So yeah, 5 feet is my favorite. The Peonies we bought 6 foot for, and we didn't have any of the like bad seam issues that we had on the 12 foot, because the peony beds are wider. The peony beds actually are 6 feet. So we'll have that like seam where the weeds grow up, which is annoying, but it'll be, easy maintenance. So that's, every farm is different. You got to decide what works best for you, but that's something I haven't heard people talk about it being difficult when they get wider, but something you might want to consider. Has growing flowers professionally ever tarnished your love for flowers? Oh, I mean, here, I get to talk about my favorite thing. So quote me on this, because I quote myself all the time on this, and I say it, and I love saying it. The biggest benefit that I bring to flower farming is that I don't love flowers. Because I'm team veggies. I'm not wearing my merch. I need to like wear my merch in these live videos and be like, team veggies. I love veggies. I love growing veggies. I love growing food. It's my number one passion. There's only one thing that I love more than growing veggies, which is making money and having a profitable business that is sustaining in the long term. So that's the reason why I'm growing flowers, is that it makes sense for our business. And it's still everything that I love about growing food, which is I love being outside. I love, I love the cycle of the seasons. I love the work. I like I like working outside. I like doing physical labor outdoors in all weather. That's the reason why I'm a farmer. And there are flowers that I like. But because I didn't come to flower farming with a passion for flowers, it makes it really easy for me to make non-emotional decisions about what flowers we're going to grow on the farm. Ian's the one. Ian's the one who gets like suckered in by like loving things. And Ian, like, because Ian loves making the videos. Ian's like really passionate about like the video work. I mean, we both are, but Ian likes the actual physical act of making the videos. I like more like the sharing knowledge. Isn't it cool? Like the internet's amazing. We can share, we can have these conversations with each other. We can spread knowledge everywhere. You know, I'm more of like the idea of what the videos can do is my passion. So Ian, you know, he's like, oh my God, these look so great on camera. We have to grow more of this. Oh, don't cut those flowers. The field looks so good, full of flowers. I'm like, no, get out of here. Like, whatever. He's like, oh, the weeds, they look so bad on camera. I'm like, no one sees the weeds, it's just green. And Ian loves dahlias. One of Ian's favorite things is dahlias. So like he was really sad when I was like, we make no money on dahlias, we're not going to grow dahlias. He was like, we have to have dahlias. So every year we buy dahlias, but the dahlias are like they're a home garden item, right? They might get planted into the farm, but we're not farming them. We're growing them because Ian loves them and he wants them. And the goal in like the year 5 to 10 plan, the goal is to get some landscaping on our property, you know, and have a space where we can have some of the things that we love that don't make sense to grow. You know, last year we were so swamped. We kind of like failed at having a veggie garden, which was sad for me, team veggies. But that's like, you know, this coming year, we're going to prioritize taking a section of the farm. It's going to be a home garden for veggies. We're not going to not have veggies again. We were fine like not having veggies because we go to the farmer's market every week. So we just like loaded up on, we just supported all of our local farmers. But you know, like I missed having the vegetable garden. So we're going to make that a priority again, you know, and like, you gotta, when you're growing for production, you got to grow what makes sense. But you know, at the same time, you gotta leave space for the things that you love in your life. You know, you just need to separate them away from your business. So even though I say I don't love flowers, I'm not that cold-hearted and evil that I don't enjoy them. What about a once a week flower harvesting workshop? Then you can get free help from folks. So the one thing about like workshops and like people like coming like woofers and things like that is often they take as much labor to the labor that you put into it is usually equivalent to the labor that you get out of it. You know, like if you want an example of this, we have a video that we made, like Ian goes to flower school or something from in the fall, and in it I'm teaching Ian how to harvest flowers, and Ian's been exposed to a lot of how to harvest flowers. Ian's, you know, Ian knows a lot even though he hasn't done much of it. You know, and so I took him out into the field and I taught him how to do everything. You know, I was like watching him to make sure he's doing things properly. You know, okay, no, you shouldn't have harvested that one. It wasn't ready to be picked. Look more for this. Okay, this is how you strip the stems. Oh, no, like not so hard. You broke the head off the flower. Like try it a bit more gentle. Okay, well, try it with your other hand. You know, all that teaching time. That I spent with Ian, who already had a good level of knowledge, then to how much he actually picked, he was like incredibly slow. You know, he was like, whoa. He was like, whoa, I really didn't. He was like, I was out there working with you. Like, he was like, I was trying, right? He was like, and like, there's not very many flowers here. He's like, I picked this bucket, but he's like, I'm now looking, I thought it was a full bucket. He's like, but I brought it in and I put it in with like all the other buckets. And he's like, this bucket's really empty. He's like, I wasn't able to pick very much in the time that I was working with you. And, you know, the reality of that specific day was that like, yeah, no, the time that I spent teaching him how to pick, led to less flowers being picked than if I was like, ah, get out of here. I gotta like, I gotta pick some flowers. What I could have picked on my own would have been way more. I was making an investment into Ian. I know that I was costing myself time, but you know, we have to invest training and we have to invest into learning so that we can eventually have Ian being fast and able to, you know, do good production. But the reality when it comes to bringing people on for, oh, like come and help me out for a day or two, the value in that is just having someone to hang out with, right? You know, it's like, I'm not going to actually produce more having someone there with me. It's just like nice to have someone to hang out with. So I do it sometimes, but I am a little bit, reluctant to go there because I know the economics aren't as obvious as you would think they would be for bringing in help. But we are going to bring in some more help next year, right? Like we're instead of like getting an employee, it's like, okay, but let's not get an employee, but let's still get someone to come for like a week. Let's hire someone for a week to help in those like times when we're just like drowning. Let's see, cutting with a knife instead of clippers is much faster. I know you've mentioned using a knife in the past. Will this be the year? So yes. And my goal is to learn how to use a harvest knife. The reason why I haven't used a harvest knife yet is that I am bad with knives, and injuries lead to downtime, which leads to less production. And it's like what I was saying with Ian. I need to invest into training myself, and I need to invest into learning. And to do that, I will be slower before I will be faster. So I need to have a window where I can afford to start investing into doing it better. But I'm worried about cutting myself and then having to nurse an injury. And part of the reason why is it's in a video. I don't think it was 2021. Maybe it was 2020. But I was like not paying attention and I cut my finger with snips on like a harvest day for like getting ready for the market. And then like I had this like nasty cut on my fingers, and it's like my fingers, right? So they heals fast, but it was like super nasty. And then like, you know, I needed to put my hands into water to like clean, but I couldn't, like, I was like, oh, I gotta like, if I don't properly treat, if I don't baby this cut today, it'll get infected, and then I'll like have a nasty thing that I'm dealing with for a week or two. So it was like we had this like really bad harvest day because there's so many things I couldn't do. Ian had to do them because I made him do all the water stuff because I wrapped my wound, I wrapped my finger, and then I put on a glove. I put on like a surgical glove to then wear under my farm gloves to keep my cut clean. But I had to be careful that everything was staying dry. And yeah, you know, it's these things that you don't think about until you need to think about it. And it's like everything just gets way more complicated. But yeah, I need to learn how to use a floral knife. It's definitely important. But another thing is, as I move towards doing more wholesale flowers, there are harvesting techniques that I haven't currently been using because I'm harvesting individual, right? Because I'm using the snips to go in and just harvest here and there. But as I grow more wholesale, which involves growing more masses at once because I'm selling in larger volumes, there are harvesting techniques that utilize harvesting many stems at once that make the harvesting process more efficient, which leads to less time being spent on harvesting, which leads to more dollar per stem in total income. So that's things that I think about all the time. That like sums up what my brain sounds like. Yeah, pull out my sickles. Okay. So just so you guys know, because I paused the chat and I'm scrolling up to just get the questions. So I'm sure if you guys are like yelling at me about stuff, I'll get to it. What do you do with something like a sunflower plant after you cut it? Just leave it, pull it out of the ground. Okay, so The one great thing, this is a good question because this is one of the complicated things about sunflowers. So the great thing about pro-cut sunflowers is they're 60 days, super fast, right? And sunflowers, like I find they have like cold tolerance. Even though they're a summer flower, like you can plant them earlier than you think you would, and they go later than you'd think they would. So with growing pro-cuts, it's 60 days, and like I mean, it's more like 65, but like they are like really accurate, like to the days compared to other things. That means that in a single bed, you could potentially plant sunflowers like 3 times, depending on how many frost-free days you have. But to do that, it means you need to figure out what you're going to do with all these like sunflower root balls. I grow like sad, pathetic sunflowers. Like I get, which is intentional. Like I intentionally grow the saddest, most pathetic sunflowers you've ever seen in your life, because that is how I'm able to get sunflowers that have these small heads that are really easy to work with in bouquets. So I'm doing it on purpose. They got these skinny little stems, and then they have a root ball, but like a big full-size sunflower has like a root ball that's like massive, right? It like holds so much dirt. If you were like going and like ripping out your sunflower root balls, you'd be like throwing away. You'd be like, oh, I'm just gonna put all the soil on my entire farm into my compost pile by pulling out, 3 rounds of sunflower root balls. So what we have normally done, just because we haven't been needing to use the space in such a high intensity way, anytime we've planted sunflowers, they've kind of been like like I have an empty spot, I'll fill it in. And I've never had to like take out sunflowers and put in new sunflowers. But because of that, what I do is, so we cut them. And I try to cut fairly low, because I'm worried, like literally I'm worried about me or anyone else hurting themselves on the farm a lot. There's a lot of things that I do because I'm like, no injuries, no hurting themselves. I mean, I'm sure you guys have heard me obsess about like, you gotta wear a hat, you gotta like wear long sleeves, you gotta protect yourself from the sun, because that would be hurting yourself, and if you hurt yourself then you can't work, and you don't want anyone else to hurt themselves like on your time. Like what, like you don't want to be responsible for anyone hurting themselves. Efficiency and safety, these are very important Serina things on the farm. So I try to cut sunflowers low, and I also specifically try not to cut them on an angle, because they are like nasty spears sticking out of the ground, and I'm very worried about anyone coming along and tripping and then falling and like impaling themselves, like, oh, I just like died, I got stabbed with like a million sunflower spikes. Yeah, because they're crazy, they're like sticks, these things. Yeah, so I try to cut them off in a way that's safe for them to stay in the ground, and then I leave them for overwinter. Part of the reason why I do that is I like having something like roots in the ground for soil health, right? It's like one of those like anti-erosion, just soil health things to keep the root balls in the ground. But I don't, but yeah, if you leave them in there, they take like years to decompose. But the one thing that I find is that if I leave them for a winter, when I come in the spring, the root ball has broken down enough that instead of being massive and like pulling all the dirt out of your farm, would have like rotted down, and the only thing that's kind of left is like a really dense root mat and then the spike, and I can go and I can pull it out and it comes out really easily. It's way less physical, and I'm not putting all my soil into my compost. So you can pull them out and succession them, but because I don't need to, I don't. One other thing that I've seen other people do, if you are trying to get those successions, and yet again, you don't want to pull them out, is I've seen people kind of consider a sunflower bed like a 2-planter, right? So you go and you plant, your sunflowers in, and then when you come in the second time, you plant so it was like I don't know, I need like a grid, right? So it's like a grid. You plant it here, 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 here the last time, and then the next time you plant like here, 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 here. Like you plant where there wasn't a root ball. So because like a root ball, a root ball, a root ball, so the next root ball would grow in there. You plant in the space that's still available in the soil, and then you could do what I did, which is in the spring you come and you pull out 2 rounds. There's a million sticks extra. It's extra dangerous. So that's an idea too. But yeah, it's kind of tricky with the sunflowers. Reaching out to a local community college that has career center going into floristry. Yeah. Yeah, I know they have like a floral design thing at our local college. But you know the hard thing is it's like I need someone to, like if I was to have someone who was going to come and arrange with me, I would need someone to I see someone. I like all of your content. I'd watch you pet Dusty. Dusty is in the video that has released for you guys to go check out. I think this is like one of the few ones that he's like been in, because we did some filming inside. But so Dusty and Kaya, they're kittens, so they haven't been in the videos very much because we keep them inside because kittens are really dumb. And our kittens these 2 are especially dumb. They're super dumb little boys. But so we've kept them inside because we just want to keep them safe until they're just a little bit smarter and a little bit older. But we're going to be letting them come outside with us once the weather gets nicer. So they'll be in the videos. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so I could hire someone who knows how to do floristry. But I need someone just for Fridays. I don't need someone full time, and so then the balance is if you want to get someone who's really good at what they do, it's finding someone who is really good at what they do, but they only want to work for like a couple hours a week, right? Like most people are like, no, I want to work full time. But yeah, who knows? Like if we were to look, there's probably a good chance we could find someone who is like, oh, I like love flowers and I was a florist, but I'm now a stay-at-home mom. But my kids started school, and so I'm available on Fridays during school hours. And yeah, I'd love to like come do flowers, like even in the summer. It'd be a chance for me to get away from my kids once a week. I'm sure there's someone like that that we could find. It's like we haven't yet decided like what's gonna happen, right? But I'm interested in what we can do with less labor, right? That's kind of like the whole point of this year, right? It's like, maybe we need to, rather than be thinking about how to grow bigger, maybe we need to be thinking about how to do what we're already doing better. It's just a little bit of a switch in thinking, but it leads to different solutions, right? Like for me, like what I do when I'm like making a plan is like I try to take in like all the factors, right? And then I'm like, what is the biggest priority, right? Like I'm like, what is the goal? What are the priorities for the goal? What is all the knowledge and information that we have that is like affecting this? And then what is looking like it'll be the best outcome, right? Because you take all that and you can come up with 100 different answers, right? So it's like, what are my skill sets? What are Ian's skill sets? What are our personal values? What are the things that we like to do and the things that we don't like to do, right? A huge amount of our farm is dictated by the fact that Ian and I hate driving, right? So there's a huge amount of the farm that has been developed in the way that it is because we have built the farm from the beginning in a way that is not leading towards having a lot of driving, and like in us talking about selling wholesale to florists, that's kind of like us being like, hey, maybe if we drive a little bit, it gives us more flexibility in the business, right? Like maybe, yeah, we hate driving, but maybe we'd have like a day of work that we don't like very much in exchange for you know, the ability to take a day off, right? You know, as you learn more about yourself and more about your business, you got to massage all those factors to come up with the best decisions and the best plans. I forget why I was talking about that. What has been your most challenging flower to grow? Lysianthus. Don't grow from seed. It sucks. It's annoying. Buy plugs. But like, I guess in a more general way, flowers would probably be my answer. Flowers are really, really difficult to grow. Like, you know, I can grow veggies great. And there was a huge learning curve in learning to grow all flowers. All of them are like very fussy compared to veggies. You know, and there's some flowers that are easier than others, like sunflowers. Sunflowers are super easy. But it's like shocking how complicated flowers can get. You know, and like even just like the way you plan and design the farm for a veggie farm versus a flower farm, like flowers are really complicated. Um, you know, so there's been a lot of learning that I've had to do over the years. I really struggled with snapdragons. You know, I'm pretty proud of like where I'm at now. With like I'm approaching I'm approaching the ability to grow florist grade snapdragons. And I also have like an understanding of how complicated snapdragons are. But snapdragons are really, you know, the seed is so tiny. They, you know, they're well, they're simple when you do everything right. There is a lot of things that you can mess up on them. You know, perennial, anything that is perennial, it grows really slow. So, you know, I can be I don't have houseplants. I don't have a single plant in my house. I take that back. I have a Christmas cactus that like, you know, my daughter's been like, I'm so proud of you, mommy, because I kept it alive for like 1 full year. But like I murder houseplants. The thing I always say is if it's not in the ground in like 2 months, like I can't keep it alive. And a lot of perennial flowers are, you know, like you need to grow them for 3 months as a seedling because they grow so slow. And I start to struggle with those because they're getting into the danger zone. Month 2 to 3 is a scary month to be alive and being a plant in my care. But yeah, no, it's been really interesting to learn how different flowers are from veggies. Um, but yeah, don't grow Lysianthus. Just buy it from a greenhouse professional. Where did you order your peonies from? So I'm in Canada. So if you're not in Canada, this information is completely useless. But I ordered them from Unicorn Blooms, which is where I got like the big, huge, beautiful ones. And then the smaller ones, which we still have some of those in the garage. Those still need to get planted out. Those I got from Van Noort, which is like the wholesale place that we get a lot of our stuff. But yeah, anywhere that you like that sells wholesale, like wholesale like cut flower stuff would be able to bring in peonies. But the one thing about peonies is you order them like in like late winter, early spring to receive them in the fall. You know, that's one of the things about a lot of the flowers that makes them difficult is you're pretty much like ordering the time to order cut flowers is a month or two before they bloom in the current year, right? So you're ordering things like 14 months before it blooms. You know, so it makes the timing kind of tricky because you don't really think about it. What about wineries, weddings, wholesale, pick your own from the farm? Yeah, so we wouldn't do pick your own because because I have forfeit beds that have 18-inch paths. And what that means in flowers is that like my flower beds are like, they're like growing into each other. Like this space here, this is like the path, right? So like if you see like the harvesting videos, we don't include it very often, but like I'm like on my side, like walking into the flower beds. I basically have to like pick my way in. It's just completely grown over. So not, it's in no way set up for you pick. And then danger, I told you, safety. Oh my God. Like, I met like little old ladies coming to visit my farm, and my sons like dug holes and they trip and they impale themselves on the scary sunflower stakes. Like a nightmare. And then so weddings. So okay, so I know that like okay, so I can make $300 an hour in bouquets. That's how fast I can arrange my market bouquets. And I think it's important to say that I can arrange $300 an hour rather than to be like, oh, I made 15 bouquets. Because like I wouldn't be selling like a la carte wedding bouquet for $300, right? I'd like a grower's choice. You get like there's no communication. I just go and I make a wedding bouquet and I'm like, here you go, your wedding bouquet. That's more like $200, right? Like $300 is like I spent like 2 hours having a conversation about flowers with a bride, like type service. And so to make a wedding bouquet, because I made a bouquet that I was like, I wanted like as can I make a wedding bouquet? So I tried to make this big decadent bouquet. It took me an hour, right? And so I'm making more money making market bouquets than I am making wedding bouquets, right? Because sure, I can sell like the wedding bouquet is $200. It's 10 times as much money as my market bouquets, but for every wedding bouquet I make, I could be instead making $100 extra in market bouquets for labor. So even though like wedding bouquets like and wedding work has these like really high price points on it, the nature of the work needing so much attention and also needing so much customer service um and communication and like special ordering, needing specific flowers rather than just going out and grabbing what I grab, needing the most perfect flowers of all. In my market bouquets, I can sell like B grade flowers. They don't have to be A grade, which is like, what florists would be using, in their entire shop. Florists don't want to buy B grade flowers. But yeah, it's I know you can make a lot of money on weddings, but our system is specifically set up to efficiently do volume. And so because of that, it's not like weddings actually would make me more money. The system itself works quite well. But people do want to get wedding stuff from us. So we have been talking. One of my jobs that I have to do this winter, and winter is like very quickly disappearing, is I need to make a website. And on the website, I'm gonna have like a la carte wedding bouquet. You want a wedding bouquet? I offer 3 bouquets. I offer bright, I offer white, and I offer soft. It's $200. There's zero communication. You just like come and you pick it up for $200. If you want that, I'll do it. And the main reason why I'm gonna offer that is so that people stop asking me to do it. If I have it on the website, because it's costing me money to not offer that service, because I have so many people asking about it that I need to I end up I've probably spent 4 hours in 2022 talking to people about how I don't do weddings. So if I can spend an hour and make a page where I'm like, hey, do you not want to choose anything about your bouquet and pay me $200? Then I will save 3 hours of time if no one ever buys a single one of them. It'll be more efficient for me to be able to tell people I do that and then not have to keep telling people I do that. Okay, so we're into I'm now seeing stuff for someone's like, oh, keep making the market vlogs. The idea is that we like, so one of the things we need to do with the YouTube is we need to make less vlogs. Because the problem with the vlogs is that, I mean, the problem with all the videos, right? Like all these videos that I've been putting out, the how much money we made, they also are videos that take forever. Well, every little bit of like, oh, look, like for a second I showed a flower on the screen, you know, like that all takes time and the time adds up. So like all the videos, they kind of take like 20 to 30 hours. The vlogs themselves, like in editing, just in editing, right? It's not even like the filming and everything else. I don't know. Is he, check the mud room. Okay. So they're taking too much time. Like the YouTube needs to be a little bit more efficient too. So we don't necessarily know how to make the market vlogs not take the amount of time that they take. We, you know, they take how long they take to be what they are. And we like what they are. So we don't want to not make them be that. But we can't be spending more than 40 hours a week on the YouTube. We, you know, it's like there's some weeks that it was like 60 hours being spent on like video creation for like, you know, a single video a week. You know, and it's just, it's not sustainable. And so we need to find a way to kind of streamline that. And one of the ways, the sad part is one of the ways to do that is to make less of the market vlogs, right? To take that down from 4, like to stop trying to do one a week and try to do one every second week. So they'd still be there, they'd still be regular, they'd still be updating, they'd still be, you know, relevant to the current season, but it'd be something that would be a lot more manageable for us. And then we could probably work, because the other problem is that it's like we're just getting so swamped by them that they come out so late. So like if there's so much of a delay in them, if we get a little bit more on the ball with them, you know, maybe we could be working on them as we're filming them, which would, you know, lead to them being able to get out quicker. And that's why I was saying like maybe we need to make some vlogs that are more less about going to the farmers market, because there's a lot involved in filming that. And maybe more about like things that are happening on the farm, or maybe do like a video that in the weeks when we're not doing the market, maybe do a video about the roadside stand, like what it takes to get bouquets ready for the roadside stand, because it is a little bit of a different process. But if we could kind of, you know, because part of the reason why I stay up till 4 a.m. on Fridays is that we're spending hours filming the vlogs, which is taking time, which is making it so the bouquets aren't getting done until the middle of the night. You know, so it's about kind of just finding a better work-life balance. 2023 is all about finding a better work-life balance, basically. So part of that is needing to find videos that people love as much as they love the market vlogs that have a better workflow for us. Same as like flowers, right? The goal on the farm is to create bouquets that people absolutely love with flowers that are more efficient for us to put together, right? The goal isn't to make a inferior product. The goal is for the YouTube to always be getting better, the same as the goal for the farm is for it to always be getting better. And the goal with the YouTube, in the same that with the farm, is we want to service our customers in the best way possible, but we also need to take into consideration our limitations. So that's okay. I'm scrolling through these. But then more time stripping leaves. I mean, if you added up I don't know what that is in reference to, but if you add up the number of hours that I spend stripping leaves, you know, I've been laughing. I forget who I was talking to, but so literally when you're a flower farmer, I'm not exaggerating, 10% of your time is bucket washing, right? So like, you know, 20% of your time is weeding, 10% of your time is bucket washing, 15% of your time is stripping leaves. And that's kind of what I was saying. Like it would be, there's a lot of things that we don't show on the camera because we don't have enough space to show on the camera. But I think there's a lot of things that you guys all would be interested in about how the farm runs, that we'd have an opportunity to show you if we weren't only making market vlogs. And then we could be like, by the way, we made this much money at the farmer's market. Because obviously we still have to tell everyone how much money we're making. Because that's like fun, right? Okay, let's see. Do you grow branching sunflowers too? How do you like them? Do they produce all summer? Okay, so the problem with branching sunflowers is that the stems can be problematic. Is kind of like the best way to put it. So the branching, they come up, they go like this, right? And then they kind of like, they just keep sending off flowers off the side. And they can be short, right? Like you're kind of like, I don't know what I'm gonna get off of it. I don't know if they're gonna be long enough. They could be like these like little tiny things. And the stems can be really weak. So it's like, oh, you get it, and it's like bing, bing, bing. Like the flower head is too heavy for the stem. Or and so it's a risk. It's a risk to grow the branching sunflowers because it's not like just because they bloom all summer. If they were in your like home garden and you weren't harvesting them, that's what you want to grow in your home garden, a branching sunflower, because that's how you have like flowers like all throughout. Like they just keep blooming and they bloom, and every week there's more flowers, and the ones on the top, the birds come and they eat all the seeds out of it. They're the fun ones to have in the garden. And so we always have a few because they're weeds. Like sunflowers are such nasty weeds. So, there's always a few spots where I'm like, just let it grow. And then the little chickadees live in it. Or as we discovered this year, the rats come in the night when you're harvesting in the night, and the rats are eating the sunflowers. And you like look over and there's like a rat at your face. So, that's also a fun thing about branching sunflowers. But the other reason why flower farmers usually don't grow the branching sunflowers is they're slow. Most of the branching sunflower varieties are like 110 days, 130 days. So when you take into consideration that the pro cuts are 60 days, and like how perfect and usable and like great the flower is, it starts to be more of a risk to grow the branching sunflowers, right? Because you need to give them more space. Like they need to be a bigger plant in order to have stems long enough that you can cut like branches, right? So, maybe you need to give a branching sunflower like, a couple feet of space. Whereas, I'm growing the pro cuts like every 4 inches, like apart, right? So there's a really good chance when you factor in time of being able to get 2 successions out of the pro cuts instead of like 1, and you factor in usable stems per square foot, there's a really good chance that you're actually getting more flowers off of a single stem than you are off of branching sunflower. And that's like even before you start like thinking about like maintenance and like how quick and all the efficiencies that come from the pro cuts, for the fact that they're like timed really well, and the planting and the space and the ability to do successions throughout your farm and stuff. They sound like they wouldn't make sense, but nothing makes more sense than pro cuts. One of the a video that I want to make this year is my $100 like, so you want to be a flower farmer but you only have $100 farm plan. And basically what it is you spend $100 on orange pro cuts and you sell sunflowers. And in my opinion, like there is no more logical flower. Like, so you want to be a flower farmer, like grow sunflowers. Like period, the end. Right? It's like if you want a simple and easy an efficient way to make some money on flowers, to grow sunflowers. Okay, let's see. Nobody can get Sunflower Steve seeds, sold out. So Sunflower Steve like smuggled me some sunflower seeds last year, and I didn't get them planted in time, and I didn't want to risk them because I was like, oh no, they're too precious. If I can't plant them too late, I have to plant them in like the perfect window. And I'm also like, maybe I should plant them like in a tunnel where I can like isolate them and try to like seed save off of them so I could like actually have some for the following year. Like maybe instead of growing them and cutting them, I should just like grow them out and then like have some to grow for the next year, just because I don't know how long it would be until he'd be able to, you know, be distributing them in Canada. Oh, I'm not saying I'd like sell his seeds. I'm just saying, you know, then I can be like, oh look, sunflower Steve seeds. But yeah, I'm like, okay, this year I can't mess them up. I have to get those into the ground. The seeds, they'll be viable for years and years, but you know, I want them. I want those beautiful blooms. His flowers, they're so beautiful. Do you grow cauliflower, broccoli, and or Brussels sprouts? No, but I keep trying. No, I can't do it. So the problem with Kelowna is like it's really hot. And those crops they like it to be cooler. So I've found that I can have a little bit of success with them in the shade. If I grow them in part shade, I've been able to get like some successful cuts off of them by growing really good varieties too. They need to be like production varieties, like the kind of the varieties that you buy at the dollar store, like nothing. I can't get anything off of them. But the one problem is because they don't like the heat, and they have the heat here, it stresses them out, and because the plants are stressed out, then they get infested with aphids. Like aphids are a really common pest here. And so like the brassicas, they just get nasty in the heat. They just get like coated in aphids. And trying to wash aphids off of like a head of broccoli is like, you're like, it's not worth it. Peeling off like like half of a cabbage just to try to get down to the layer that doesn't have aphids in it is like, blah. And like, oh my god, aphids who've been eating brassicas, like when you like smush them, they like smell so bad. So you're kind of like, oh, I really don't want to eat any of this. How come you're not wearing a mask? Because I'm in my house and I'm not working with anything dusty right now. But because we are coming in, this is a great opportunity to remind everyone of how important masks are, because we are coming into seed starting time of year. And one of the things that I didn't know until I was a farmer, because I never really thought about it. And then when I became a farmer, I got all these like warning labels on all the like on all these like big size things. Potting soil is very dangerous. Powdered fertilizers, these things are really dangerous to handle. You do not want to be breathing them in. They're very dangerous to your lungs. You know, you think of like asbestos, like, oh my god, there's asbestos in that house, I couldn't possibly buy it. You know, like asbestos is scary, asbestos is dangerous, right? Like no one wants to be breathing that in. No one even wants to deal with it with a mask on, because we know the dangers of asbestos. Potting soils, like the peat in the potting soils, it's very dangerous to breathe in too. So you know, if you do a lot of potting up, if you do a lot of seedlings, if you do a lot of handling of dry potting soil, it's a really great idea. We all have these great dust masks in our house. You know, so many of us have access to N95s now in a way that, you know, we wouldn't have before. put on your mask. It makes it's good for you. It's good for your health. And you don't realize how unpleasant it is working with these things until you try doing it with a mask and you're like, whoa, like normally I come in and I like blow my nose. Another thing to think about is we wait until the spring to clean up our garden. But when we do that so that there it's like places for the little chickadees to live and seeds for them to eat and like spaces for like beneficial insects to live over the winter. The other reason why we do it is so that the garden materials are lighter weight. It's way less physical to clean up in the spring. So that's my main reason. I'm lazy. I don't want to do the heavy lifting. I just wait until it's dry. But when you do that, powdery mildew, that's mold, right? When I go to clean up the plant matter, it's black. The reason why it's black is that's black mold. People don't want to live in a house that has black mold in it. That's like oh my God, condemn the house, tear the house down. It's killing me and my family to live with black mold. Cleaning up your garden when it's all black and dried out is also black mold. So yet again, one of those things I didn't think about when I was a home gardener, but when I started to do things on these like really large scale, I started to think about it. And like I said, I'm obsessed with safety. Wearing an N95 mask while cleaning up the garden matter, that like mildewy and black garden matter that's like dusty and like getting in your face. When you wear a mask, it's crazy. It's crazy how much more pleasant it is to spend the day doing that. You think about, you come in, you like blow your nose and it's like black, right? That's all stuff that you're breathing in. So don't disregard how great masks are. Breathing in that garbage, it makes you feel bad. As I get older, it's like alcohol, right? Like back when I was 20, I could go out and I could drink all night and stay up all night and not feel so bad the next day. And now I have like 2 drinks and I'm like, oh my God, like my stomach feels really bad and I'm like so dehydrated. I'm never gonna like recover from this. Like, why did I do this to myself? Inhaling all the dust and all that type of stuff. Maybe it didn't bother me so much when I was 20, but as I settle solidly into middle age, these lungs aren't as strong as they used to be. So yes, take care of them. Okay, let's see. I'll see what I can find. But I'm getting to the point that oh, here we go. Here's a great one. What is your color of the year prediction? I was thinking about this because, okay, so I'm working on unboxing video. I'm currently working on, I have a new seed source that I bought from Ball Seeds this year. So I'm like, when I get off of this, I have to go get back to editing my video. And it'll come out at the end of the week. But it's my Ball Seed unboxing. And in it, I was working on a part where I was talking about how last year my prediction was pink for color of the year. And my money's still on pink, guys. I mean, Pantone color of the year is magenta. I guess I'm rocking the color of the year today. Yeah, no, like I really think that pink is gonna be really strong. But the one thing that I've invested into, like pretty heavily, is more blue. And the reason that I did that is that we had so much success with rainbow ranunculus bouquets. People really liked the rainbow color palette. And so I was like, we need more rainbow. So we bought a bunch of blue anemones, because what we had for a blue in the rainbow ranunculus bouquets was bachelor buttons, and like a blue anemone, like, because anemones, they look like a poppy, but like a blue poppy, with the ranunculus, like, next level. Get out of here, bachelor buttons. Like, no one likes you when we can have blue anemones for our rainbow bouquets. But yeah, if I could have rainbow bouquets all year, like they would do really well for me, because going down to the farmers market, all the bright and the cheeriest flowers really do the best. So, I think pink, but I'm doing a bunch of work on getting more blue on the farm. Not necessarily because I'm saying it's a trend, but because because I want more. What program do you use to edit your videos? So we use a really simple editing program. It's a Filmora, but does everything we want it to do. We hurt our computer's brain more than we hurt our editing program's brain with what we do, because we like these vlogs that I've been saying are taking like they're like 8 hours of footage that we start before we cut it down into a half an hour in the final. Like, the final video is a half an hour, but we start with like 8 hours of footage, and so the computer is like, oh, I can't think. Like, you want me to think about 400 clips at the same time? Oh my god, it like won't run properly. But yeah, Filmora, it does everything that we need it to. How about a flower and wine tour? I know that would be fun. So people do like the sip and snip like events, which are like, oh, like wine and flower arranging, and I don't think we'd ever do that, because the one thing about doing that is that we would need to get a liquor license. We would need an event liquor license, I'm pretty sure, in order to legally do something like that. One of the reasons why we haven't done events so far is, first of all, COVID. And then also we would need to have insurance for events. And then we're like, parking is a little bit of a limitation on our farm. But maybe it would be fun in the future to be able to partner. We're surrounded by all these wineries. We're in like wine country. Like, if I wanted to do like a wine tour, like only drive 5 minutes from my house wine tour, I could go to like 12 different wineries. There's like tons and tons of wineries right near me. And a ton of them like do events, and they clearly have liquor licenses. So, there's definitely like networking possibilities that I could do, and because it's 5 minutes from my house to do something like that, like, be like, oh, fill the van up with some flowers, drive up the road, and spend like an evening like hosting some sort of flower event. That's definitely something that we could think about. But not this year, Serina. Don't get excited. Don't be thinking about fun things like that. On how to spend less time working, not how to add more things onto the list. But the great thing about a business is, you can, once you get things that work, you can keep changing, right? The business can keep growing. The business can keep changing to do what works best for you. Okay, I'm trying to see. Could you hire an editor? So the one problem with hiring an editor is because we have 8 hours of footage in order to make our videos, the cost of hiring an editor would be in no way better than what we're currently dealing with. We wouldn't be able to pay someone to deal with our 8 hours of footage. So if we wanted to pay someone, we'd have to, first of all, sorry, I know it's like shaking because I'm trying to scroll through. Yeah, we'd have to figure out how to not, what am I trying to say? We'd have to figure out how to not have 8 hours of footage. And yet again, the problem with the market vlogs is we don't know how to do that. So if we could figure out how to make more efficient vlogs, maybe one day we could make even more vlogs, because it would be the type of thing that we could hire an editor for. But as it is right now, we would have to pay more money than we're making, like on the videos, right? Like we'd probably have to even if you factored in us having like a sponsorship, like we've been getting on a lot of our videos, if you factored in like what we make in the AdSense and like having a sponsorship on every single video, it would be like we'd be making very little money. And because YouTube is like how we pay our bills, if YouTube all of a sudden started making very little money, we'd have to figure out how to pay our bills. So it takes a lot of time, but you know, we need to give it the attention that we do, because we can't quit our day job, right? That's the reality of it. Okay, so snapdragons are bent. So mine are bent too. I say that they have lots of wind in them. You can't buy the natural movement that you get in my high-end snapdragons. You even if you wanted to buy snapdragons with these beautiful shape and movement to them, you couldn't. You can only get those off of a farm that will sell you bent stems. So so maybe bent stems isn't so bad. Is my first suggestion. And then the next one is like, if you do want them straight, then you need to be staking them. That's like how that's how the florists and all the professional growers, they're staked. And then the one thing about snapdragons is, I forget the word, but they turn to the light. So snapdragons are hard because if you grow them straight and then you put them in your bucket, how are you going to get them to sit straight in the bucket, right? The bucket, they're going to sit like that. And then you let them sit for a day, and then they go like this. And then you pull them out and they have a bend. So it's really hard to not get bent snapdragons. Why'd you wait so long to plant the tulip bulbs? Well, if you go watch the video that came out, the answer is we didn't mean to. That was unfortunate that we waited so long. Phototropic. Thank you, Jennifer. That's why the snapdragons bend. And there's like a bunch of stuff that does that. Yeah, no, the weather, right? Like winter came way sooner than it should have. Like we don't normally we can't guarantee a white Christmas in Kelowna. So getting the snow as early as we did, right? Because it was kind of like, it was in November, and I was like, it's fine, it's gonna melt. Like this, sure, it snowed, but like it'll melt. It's not gonna stay around. Like it's not gonna be a problem. And then it didn't. It just stayed, and it got colder and it got colder. We had a flood in our house. We got stuck. Like all of Canada got shut down due to weather. Like every single major airport in Canada had to shut due to like weather, which is insane. The fact that like the East and the West were all like getting slammed with weather. So we got stuck in Ontario for Christmas. We went to do a visit, and then it ended up being like 2 weeks that we were out there. We didn't even like bring our computer. By the time we came back, we were like, oh my god, there's all these like we didn't get any videos made because we didn't bring our work with us like we normally would. Yeah, and it's just crazy weather, but like we finally got the stuff in, but in that video, like, and we're not even showing how much, like, oh my god, what are we gonna do? Like how every day was like, okay, well, what about this? What about this? We were really struggling to try to figure out like what to do to get everything in. I knew with the tulips, absolute worst case scenario, because like we literally were like, okay, like maybe we are doing worst case scenario, and worst case scenario was we would have to buy potting soil, right? Because it was so cold that so our compost pile was frozen. We got compost delivered to plant the tulips into. The compost pile was covered in snow and frozen, so we couldn't even get to the compost. So we were like, it's fine. We'll buy more compost. We'll just get compost delivered. Our driveway had like 3 inches of ice. You couldn't like drive on it. So we're like, we need to remove the ice so that a truck could come in to deliver compost into our driveway. Because like there's so much snow and everything. It's like we can't get it delivered like down on the farm. Like trucks can't have access, so we'll just dump a truckload of compost into our driveway. But then we're phoning like compost places, being like, hey, like, can we still get compost delivered? And they're like, ooh, you know what? We know we don't have our trucks insured for the winter. We like compost won't be available. Like we don't reinsure our trucks until into the new year. So we're like, oh my god, we're gonna like are we like planting these in January when we can finally get compost dumped in our driveway, which we'll then have to deal with at some point. We're like, do we go and buy potting soil? Oh, and the plan was like not like, oh, we get it dumped and then like, oh, we plant it in the ground. It was like, we're gonna have to plant them into crates, and then we could like put the crates into the greenhouse, and then when the snow melts, we could move some of the crates out of the greenhouse. We could move them around. We're like, oh, we're gonna have to buy crates to be able to like just do this crazy thing. And luckily we did get this warm window, which like we show in the video. But yeah, so we got that warm window, I think, before we went to Ontario. But we didn't get the tulip bulbs done before we went to Ontario. The tulip bulbs actually got planted after we came back. Because we ran out of time, right? And then they got planted so much later. The only good thing is, which I also don't think this was in the video. So the one thing about tulip bulbs is they need a certain number of chill hours. So they need to like be cold for a certain number of weeks in order to bloom. And if they aren't cold enough, this is why like I can grow tulips fine, but in California and Florida, it's not like, oh, like here tulips, we put them in the ground and they bloom. They have to keep them in the fridge to give them the chill hours and then plant them after they've been like chilled for enough time that they actually will bloom. So we were planting them so late that if the weather had been warm, we would have been having complications for hitting the number of chill hours that they need with like how soon things warm up. But because it was so cold, them being in our garage was the fridge temperatures that they would have needed to be in order to be getting their chilled hours. So they basically were in like refrigerated storage the entire time. So it in no way affected the tulips to be planted so late because of the craziness that we had. But yeah, like that was not the plan. Nothing that happened in that entire video was the plan. The plan was to plant it when the weather was nice. It's just the weather didn't cooperate. Okay. So I got all the questions. It's ended up being crazy long. But thanks so much. Thanks so much for hanging out. It was, it's fun to get to give you guys the update, let you guys know what's going on. We're getting excited about getting like a plan, like figuring out a way that the farm will work better for improving a work-life balance is something that is going to improve the quality of our lives. And it is unfortunate that the reason that we're doing that this year is because we're dealing with an upcoming death in the family. But it's going to be better for us in the long term that we're making this decision and we're moving forward with a new plan. Okay. YouTube's like, oh my god, you've been live too long. You need to get out of here. Okay, so thanks so much. Okay, so if you didn't go watch it, we have the vlog that I was telling you about. We have the like the great winter planting adventure. and it's absolutely ridiculous. Okay, so just to clarify, so like, because I see like asking about Ian's dad. So Ian's dad has a terminal cancer diagnosis. They've told us he has like a few months. So it's like there is no like, oh, like maybe with this treatment plan, it's just we know what's going to happen, which is sad, um, but yeah, so that's what it is. Okay, but guys, you gotta go watch the video. It's really good. I'm like all stoked on it. I'm gonna go watch it. I'm gonna go watch it now. So thanks so much for hanging out. We're gonna try to start getting a little bit more regular with the live videos again. And we also we got a bunch of videos that we're working on too. This coming up week, we're pre-sprouting our first ranunculus. We're doing our first plantings. We're going to be planting snapdragon seeds. We're going to be planting like perennial flowers, stuff like that. So it's hard to believe it, but the new farm season is starting, and so we're going to make some vlogs about that. We're talking about making a vlog about trying to sell flowers for Valentine's Day. So we got some fun stuff coming up, so stay tuned. Okay, I will see you guys next time. Thanks so much for helping. Thanks so much for hanging out. Okay, see you guys.